Fun fact, Kundalini is also a northern Italian pasta that is served in a very rich tomato sauce.
I knew it was pasta!
And I'm going to talk about that. No, I'm kidding. It's not real. That's all fake.
My first thought it does sound delicious, doesn't it?
Oh my God. Somewhere, some very, very particular Kundalini practitioner is like,
Die!
And because they're connected to they're so in tune with the universe, they heard
I heard that. Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Whyte Noise.
Today, guess what? We have with us one of our universally loved guests back again. Jordan, welcome back.
Now that's horny.
Yeah. So before we just hit record, so we jumped on Riverside, which is what we record on. And we've just been catching up because I haven't seen Jordan in a minute. And she's one of my favorite people. And we're just chatting. And we were like, wait, why aren't we recording? Everything you say is gold. But I just learned something about myself, which is, Jordan, you are a much better gay man than I will ever be.
I get that a lot.
Ryan was talking about his perfect morning, and you said that is horny. And I thought you meant to say that is morning.
No, I said that's horny. Mm-hmm.
And why?
I realize, and Ryan and I have discussed this, that I spend the majority of my time around gay men, gay women, my queer self, and drag queens. So my verbiage that I use is often shaped by that. But what I do for a living, I spend a lot of time with, in no negative way, straight white women. And I'll say things like, oh, wow, that's horny. And they look at me like, what? And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's really nice. Love that for you. But I forget sometimes where I am, where I'm like, okay, girl, pop off. And they look at me like, okay.
I love this.
Last night I said to Rick, we were watching something last night. I was like, it's crazy to me how many times I say I have to beat my face. And women at the club look at me like, what? And I'm like, makeup. I have to do a full face of makeup.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, like I got to get out of here. I have to do a full beat before I go to dinner. And they're like,
you have to eat a beat? Are you worried about digestion?
I have to put eyeliner on. And they're like, oh, yes.
Oh, got it.
And then I'm like, right. I forget where I am sometimes. Where I'm like,
now I'm picturing some like wealthy white woman from, a suburb being like, I have to beat my face, and just standing there putting on makeup, but then slowly just punching her face and being like, this must be what Jordan does to look so good.
I feel like using it awkward and be like, honey, do you like my beat?
Yeah.
Well, and I say that, but I feel like it would sound different.
Or alternatively, husband grills something wonderful on the grill, brings it in, sets it on the table. Rich white woman goes, oh, that's horny. And then suddenly he's got all the wrong signals. Yes. And he's like, oh, really? Really?
We haven't had sex since July. Yeah. Yes. Phil's getting some tonight. Like,
Rick will say it. We'll be watching something and he'll be like, ooh, Horntina. And I'm like, I know, right?
Horntina. Is that a thing? I've never heard Horntina, but I love that.
Like right now, this Horntina Aguilera.
Horntina Aguilera. I can't wait to go to work on Monday.
You're getting a little crazy. You've had too much to drink. You're Turtina Aguilera. Yeah. Make it work for you. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. I didn't realize. I knew I lived under a rock. I didn't realize how big that rock was until just now.
What was the one we were running around with my, didn't we add Izzy to everything?
Oh, Ussy.
Pussy.
Like,
Ussy.
It would be Babussy. My Babussy.
Can you bring me that cough Ussy, please?
Yeah. Horntussy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Horntussy.
I don't know why babussy, though. That makes me sound a little like, oh, honey, I went to the parlor. I got a babussy. It's very nice. It accentuates my cheekbones. That's what Doreen told me, at least.
It's always Doreen.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know why something like this just makes me think I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time. And one of my favorite moments is, I think it was somewhere in season 2, where Tony gets into bed and he's obviously cheating on Carmela because he is the whole time. But it's during that whole section of the show where she just wants to have sex. It was season 2 and they didn't know what to do with her.
Yes.
And so her whole storyline is just, I'm not getting enough.
And you can't get rid of Edie Falco because
she's the greatest thing on two legs.
Yes.
And so Tony comes home late from his mistress, gets into bed, and Carmela's dead asleep, but in full face, beat. Full asleep. He gets into bed and then she wakes up, rolls over and just goes, you want sex? And like in that voice.
That sounded like Lois from Family Guy.
And he just goes, nah. And she goes, he's like, I'm tired, Carmela. And she's like, okay. And just rolls over and goes back to sleep. And now ever since then, like I'll just be with people, like I'll be with Brian, with my boyfriend, and just turn and be like, you want sex? Like in the least sexy moments ever. We're watching like a really sad episode of a TV show. And I don't know why that's the person who would be like, that's horny.
Yes.
But like, not.
Uh-huh. And I'm going to use that and not explain the context to Rick at all. And just,
Great.
You want sex?
You want sex?
want
That's what we have
sex.
other friends who said they do the same thing. So I finally only just learned what brat was. So now just in time to figure out brat.
And it's over.
Horny.
No, it's never over, Ryan. It's never over.
Are we
Good.
moving into another brat summer?
If I have my way.
If I
Great.
have my way. I'm going to need a brat summer.
I know. I feel like I literally was like, I don't think Ryan remembers what I look like.
Well, I do now. Thank you.
It's been too long.
Yeah, my dinner with James, whatever that was, like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And of course, James was like, oh, get fucked. Like, we're trying to do this. Like, I love you too. Yeah. And he was like,
I know I'm up here like laying fucking hardwood floor and you're sending me pictures of eating delicious pizza in downtown Asbury Park.
you were sanding something and you sent the picture and you were covered in white dust.
Oh, that's right. Drywall. I was doing drywall.
Was that drywall, or were you just having a really wild weekend?
It was cocaine.
We knew it.
It was a lot. It was also like a Wednesday night, which is not helpful at all either. It's like a Wednesday at 10 p.m. We're drinking espresso martinis and Ryan is laying pipe.
Oh.
I wish I was laying pipe. I do love this idea that maybe I'm the most ineffective cocaine snorter in the world. I just don't know how to use it. So I just like throw it on I'm just like,
You just throw it on your face.
does it work like this?
Is this it?
Like,
Did I cocaine right?
I'm not feeling energized.
All right. Should we get to the reason I could do this with you,
I think
Jordan,
so.
all day? Can this podcast just be like catching up with Jordan?
You're gonna be down here in the summer, no?
Michael, I thought you'd already moved into Jordan's shed.
Right.
Not yet. Oh, although I probably should. I may have a tenant for you. So my neighbor, this is a story. I live, my apartment in Jersey City is on the top floor of like a really old brownstone, right?
Nice, yeah.
We have really cool high ceiling skylights. It's lovely. My neighbor across the hall, he was like, have you ever been up on the roof? And we have like this rickety old ladder right outside our doors up to one of those little like hatch things to the roof. And I was like, no, I didn't think we could go up there. It's clearly not a roof that like, I've seen it from the street. Like it doesn't look like a roof you hang out on. And he was like, no, it's actually pretty nice. Although I've been hearing some weird things recently. So like, be careful. And the other night I was here and I was like, well, it's a beautiful night. I've been in the office all day. Let me go like get some fresh air and check out the roof. And I climb up the rickety thing. The first thing I open the hatch and there's just a sneaker, just a lone sneaker. And it's also 11:30 at night.
Huh.
And there's just a sneaker in front of the little hatch thing. And I was like, that's weird. And it's a new looking sneaker. I was like, why does this look like something out of like Law and Order?
Yeah.
And I keep climbing out and I see another pile of just like shoes, like kind of beat up shoes and some new shoes. And it's just like, what's happening up here? And this is where like all the brownstones are about the same. They're all the same floors. So it's like everyone's sort of spread across like the rooftop of Mary
Yeah,
Poppins.
you could walk
right?
across rooftops.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
They're
Yeah.
all, and none of them have railings or anything. Like you really shouldn't be up there, but like, but it's fine. And I look at it and there's a sleeping bag sort of balled up and then like a busted old suitcase with clothes on it. And I was like, oh, someone's fully like living up here.
Wait, you can get up there without going in the building?
I don't know because ours, like our little hatch to the roof, like you can only open from the inside.
Right.
And it was locked when I went up. So there must be, but like all the roofs are connected. So who knows? And I was like, oh, fuck, somebody is living up here and hoarding shoes, question mark. But I was like, and I look around and I'm like, well, it's a nice night. I'm just going to sit here. And I walk kind of towards the edge and I'm like looking out towards the city. And then I just hear this trickling of water. And I was like, what's going on? And then this guy, this huge dude just like steps out from behind a chimney. And I just see the silhouette. And it was literally... it was the scariest
I would have lost it.
thing.
Yeah.
I was like, huh! And he just stood there and just stared at me and was just like,
okay.
and I
What
was
the
like,
fuck?
Sir.
and there's no God. I was like, well, this is how I die.
Yeah.
And luckily, like he starts to walk towards me and walks between me and the hatch. And I was just like standing still and just sort of awkwardly waved. I was like, hi. And he picks up the lone sneaker and then walks around to the back edge and just throws it over the back, and then walks back to the pile of shoes and just one by one picks up a shoe, walks over and just throws it over the edge. And I was like, okay. And one at a time you walk back over the edge, I think this is where I get off the roof.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to be up here with a crazy man throwing shoes.
No.
But like, so apparently there's a man who lives on my roof who hoards shoes so he can throw them into the back, which where he was throwing them was like the back work area for a Greek restaurant. So I wonder if they come out in the morning and they're like, why are all these shoes back here?
I have so many questions for this guy.
Right?
Yeah.
But then part of me, I was like, I should call the police. But then part of me felt bad because I was like, this is where he lives and maybe he has nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And honestly, who's he harming up there?
Nobody. Yeah.
The worst
He
thing
didn't
he's
throw
going to
it
do is like
you.
peek in through my skylights and like, I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome to the show. It's not particularly exciting. It's
Wow. I also want to know the lore. Like, did he work at the restaurant and get fired? Did someone piss him off at the restaurant? Is he after a target specifically? Is he just trying to confuse them? Because that's tea. To just be like, where are these shoes coming from every day?
I gotta be honest with you. I think I want to get at the base story. Like, why are you on the roof?
Yeah. What happened that led you to this roof with these shoes and that Greek restaurant?
These Jordans make me horny.
Those are horny shoes. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even
like-
use it right, and I tried. That was terrible. I'm a failure.
no, just at cocaine, but it's fine. Okay, so wait, Ryan, what are we talking about? What are we actually talking about today?
We're talking about Kundalini.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, good. I was like waiting for the Jordan reaction. I was like, if she doesn't react, we have a problem. Not really. But so we were like, apparently there's a very strong tie-in to Kundalini and yoga and Kundalini practice within yoga.
It's a very particular lineage of yoga. Yeah.
Because I took a bunch of screenshots of things that pertain to yoga. So if you were about to say no, I was going to be like, well.
So Jordan, who's going first?
I think Michael should go first.
Okay, great.
Sweet. All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay. Also, I love, Ryan, that you said Kundalini instead of I think it's Kundalini.
Mhm.
But it really makes me happy that you lean into the Kundalini of it all.
Like cunt. Sorry. Oh, am I allowed to say that word?
Kundalini is the divine feminine, so it makes sense.
I was going to say Kundalini feels like a really proper Freudian slip with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned, Jordan, and this is where I'm so glad we have you, because I feel like I learned a lot and yet I understand nothing. And that to me also feels very in keeping with a little bit of a Kundalini
Absolutely.
thing. It feels like it feels like a great mystical
It is.
concept that is much greater than ourselves. Because, for example, like I ended up watching a lot of videos with these sort of yoga energy masters from India, which mostly were a bunch of old men with really big beards,
Yep.
talking about the power of Kundalini
Yes.
and how it's beyond what a lot of us can comprehend. And let me just start with one guy said, he was like, the average person, we all have, he said, 114 chakras, which I thought we only had, what is this?
7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. 7 chakras. He said there are 114.
Yeah.
But the average person lives their life only using 21.
Yeah.
And you only use 21 to sort of just like get from A to B through life. So I was just like, oh, damn. Well, and he was like, somebody who achieves full Kundalini accesses all 114. And I was like, whoa, okay. So in basic, it's activating all of your chakras, right? Beginning at the base of your spine, your absolute base, and activating all the way through to the top. And that is the feminine power, right? And it's like, in pictures, imagery, it's done with a snake,
A
right?
snake.
That goes
Yeah,
up
it's
the
a
back.
serpent,
Yeah.
serpent energy. It's like serpentine energy that starts at your pelvis and all the way up.
Which I think is interesting because so I learned that this practice goes back thousands upon thousands of years,
Yeah.
like predates writing, basically. Like the first time it was written down was like 900 BCE or something like that. And then it was incorporated into yoga practices once they finally were like, this is what yoga, once they finally defined it. Which I think is just so fascinating, because then it's interesting that like that the image is of a serpentine thing going up the back of your spine. That Christianity then is like the serpent and Eve. Like, I was like, oh, so again, Christianity's nothing original. Like, this idea of a connection between the female power and a snake has been around for centuries.
And religious people will still say that any yogic practice is of the devil.
Yeah, and that's but I was like, but they made it bad.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting that for this, it's like it's literally achieving the highest power of awareness and self.
Yep, of self
and then and it's an inherently feminine power, which makes total sense because life comes from women.
Is that the delta between? That's the delta between like. Christians don't believe you're self-empowered. They believe you're empowered by God. So
this is true. So if they see something like that, they have to make it bad.
Yeah.
Because this is the idea that like it all comes from within.
Yeah. And that's any yoga practice, not just Kundalini. That's why they hate often people who are super devout will say that if you practice yoga, you're basically not giving yourself up to what will be and like forcing control.
Oh.
Because it's self, yeah, like you said, Ryan, you're supposed to give yourself up to God and like let this being make all the choices, where yoga is, like you said, Michael, it's 100% the deepest, strongest awareness that you could possibly have internally and externally. That's nirvana, right? It's that full awareness of self.
But I was so excited about this. And one video I watched, one particular old man, he broke it down this really great way where he started out by saying, he was like, so on a really basic term of Kundalini to sort of like give you a frame of mind. And he was like, this is the most basic version. Imagine just like a truck driver, and his job is he just like drives. And if his whole life is very boring, if he just sits and when he drives, he doesn't take anything in, he just drives the truck, he eats, he sleeps, he gets up, he drives, and that's his basic life. And that's how he goes through life. And he was like, the Kundalini version is somebody who sees everything while he drives and appreciates everything along the drive while he goes through his life.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's interesting. And he was like, basically, that's the most basic explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he broke down the 7 chakras of like going through and how each one you sort of have a choice between like a positive and a negative feeling. And the Kundalini version is taking in the positive version, but not overdoing it. So like when he got to the pelvic one, he was like somebody who embraces sex and creativity, but like somebody who overdoes it, then it knocks you back.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that this idea of all of them were basically just driven by positivity, creativity, and joy and gratitude, but also embracing the sad things. Like when he got to the throat chakra, he was like, Kundalini, when your throat chokes, but he was like, it chokes when you feel gratitude because you're excited, but also when you feel sadness. And he was like, Kundalini is also enjoying the sadness and allowing that to flow through your body. So he was like, it's not all happy, positive all the time. Sometimes it's fully just expressing and expressing just the authenticity of it, because you can't move on to the next level unless you acknowledge those feelings. And he was like, in gratitude and sadness, you have the same physical reaction, but you can choose to sit in one or the other, which I thought was very interesting. He was like, so much of Kundalini is choosing to feel the positive side of something. He was like example, the stomach one. He was like, when you feel anger and jealousy, you feel it in your stomach, but also when you feel joy, you feel it in your stomach. Or like your forehead. He was like, when you feel like creative energy, it's in your forehead, but also when you feel anger, it's in your forehead. And which one do you choose? You have to acknowledge both, but you can't move to the next one until you choose the more positive side. And it was really beautiful. But then I watched this more intense guy who was like, Kundalini yoga specifically is the most powerful yoga. It's also the most dangerous yoga because it's the most potent yoga. And he was like, do not try it.
100 like that.
Oh, and he was like, do not try it unless you are ready. And it was sort of the epitome of like, nothing comes unless you are ready.
Mm-hmm.
And
people
he was just
do it
like,
and never come back to you. If that's their first ever yoga class, they'll like, I've met so many people that have been like, I tried yoga years ago. And I'm like, oh, what did you do? And they're like, I went to a Kundalini. And I'm like, stop right there. Try again. And don't do Kundalini. Do vinyasa, do hatha, do something else.
And the way he described it was like doing shrooms, though. He was like, he was like, doing Kundalini is like starting the alphabet at Z. And he was talking about how it's this incredible great awareness, but it's also really dangerous because you're accessing so much of you and you're tapping into the universe in such a great way that like you could really screw yourself up if you don't have the proper guide. And I was like, the whole way he was describing it, I was like, this is the way people who do drugs talk about like doing shrooms for the first time or any kind of hallucinogen. If you don't have the proper guide and it can be like a really upsetting
terrible.
trip where you could
Yeah.
be
You're
really
not in the right
traumatic.
headspace. Yeah, it can be. It's also physically one of the most demanding styles of yoga.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But the people who have done it, who have reached it, it's amazing because like there's one quote somebody was like, what does Kundalini feel like? It awakens you. It feels like a wave of bliss that sweeps through your entire being, a warm current flowing through your spine. It's a gentle breeze blowing on your forehead. It's just like the people who have achieved it, it feels like this incredible, like somebody said, their chakra, they felt like their entire body was blooming with glory. And it's just like, if you can achieve this sounds pretty spectacular. Jordan, have you ever done something like this?
I've done Kundalini multiple times. I will say, I don't know if we have any yoga experts listening to this podcast, or if it's like Instagram where people are going to lose their shit on me in a second. But it's not my favorite style of yoga.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's fair.
That's okay. That's
But
yeah.
listen, people lose their mind and are like, "You're not doing real," and I'm like, okay. I've been teaching yoga for over a decade, and I've been practicing for over 2 decades. So, the thing that people, don't really understand about a physical, like asana, which is the posture, is that there's tons of lineages, meaning variations of style of yoga. So Kundalini is a very particular one. And you're very right. You need a teacher. You shouldn't just go to a Kundalini class just like because like you're on vacation and you saw it's on the schedule. Get a teacher. And I'm talking get a teacher, like work through it.
I'm intrigued by like, what is the experience somebody's having if they're just dropping into a Kundalini class and don't like what, in other words, what's happening that's creating that polarization? I'm just kind of interested in
the movement. So they have what's called kriyas, which are sequences of movement. And when we think of a sequence in a yoga class, it's like, up dog to down dog to whatever.
Oh, that's 10 minutes already. I just keep going. It's fine.
It's, so that is, I think, what people have in their brain, or like what they see in like westernized yoga, say like on Instagram or TikTok, or like on a Lululemon commercial or something like that. Kundalini has these kriyas that you're given and you do that awaken that energy. So instead of like up dog to down dog, it can look like standing in the middle of the room, taking your arms out like a T and like swinging to smack your arms to your chest and back. And that awakens the energy. So imagine you're on vacation, you're like, I'm going to go get myself a nice deep stretch today. And you go in and the first thing the teacher makes you do is stand up, start swinging around, and also doing heavy breath work where you're like, ha, ha, ha. So like it can throw people off. So rather than like doing like sitting and folding forward to get a deep stretch, it's vibrational. So it's the sound healing, it's the breath work. And often people who aren't guided properly, they feel dizzy or a little fuzzy because the breath work and the movement together physically is blood flow and oxygen flow. And it's like, if you've ever like hit a bong for the first time and you think you're hot, and you take that really big hit and then you pass out, your body is not used to that energy shift inside. So it can feel very like, whoa. But if you have training and you're working up to it, that sensation and what you build internally energetically can feel euphoric once you have it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said. It's like a euphoric feeling. And I read some things where they equated it to like sexual feelings and like tantric experiences. But it sounds like it's way beyond sex. It's like more of the emotion. Like when you orgasm, you have an emotional reaction, because you have a physical reaction. But like, it sounds like that's probably why people equate it, 'cause it's like the closest thing they can think of.
It is. And it's very, and lots of men practice it, but it is that divine feminine and building up that, serpentine energy from the base of your pelvis. And of course, it's understood that the pelvis is a very sexual area of the body and that energy that moves through. And there's also a lot of, not every, like one of my mentors is a Kundalini teacher. And I love her because she's not, my first experience with Kundalini was years and years ago. And it was, everybody was dressed in white. Everybody had a big white wrap around their head. They were carrying around crystals. And I'm not talking like decoration in their house, like holding them and putting them in front of their mat when they came in. And there I was in like a pair of Lulu leggings and a sports bra. Like, what is, and it was at my studio. It was a sound bath that was at my studio. But the girl that did the sound bath brought like her whole squad and they were all Kundalini people. And I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I love my mentor because she is a devout Kundalini practitioner, but she's a normal, and I mean that with respect, she's just a normal woman.
All right, Ryan. Now that I've taken half an hour, are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, great. I'm gonna do a timer. I'm not sure why, but look, and go.
So, fun fact, Kundalini is also a northern Italian pasta that is served in a very rich tomato sauce.
I knew it was pasta.
And I'm going to talk about that. No, I'm kidding. It's not real. That's all fake.
My first thought it does sound delicious, doesn't it?
Oh my God. Somewhere, some very, very particular Kundalini practitioner is like,
And
Die!
and because they're connected to they're so in tune with the universe, they heard
I
you.
heard that. Mm.
Yeah.
They
I just
heard it.
broke the
They're gonna
time
text me.
continuum.
They're gonna find Jordan.
I'm the channel.
So I'm going to try and breeze through some of the things that you touched on, Michael. Like, it stands for coiled one. Imagine a serpent at the base of your spine. Awakening your Kundalini can come through meditation, breathwork, chanting, yoga postures. And I also like to highlight that it can happen accidentally through life chaos. And the way it was described in terms of my research is, imagine an energy uncoils and rockets up your spine through your chakras, unlocking them, ultimately kind of culminating at your crown chakra, where you have enlightenment, cosmic union, and kind of universal love. And I like the fact that it kind of talks, I mean, that sounds very pretty, right? But it can also be extremely messy.
It's pretty violent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It can be like, wow, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
That's horny.
Well, that's yoga's horny.
So horny. So I decided to look into a little bit of the science behind it, or what science is there. And I will say that in terms of modern science, there is more curiosity towards the mind and body connection. There is deeper exploration of spiritual emergence therapy. It's like a growing focal point. And there is, as we know, just through like research of various psychedelics, an acceptance of altered states as a place of possible healing. And we're also starting to do, because, you know, the technology is there, is to study the brain in connection with, let's call it mental altered states, and Kundalini being one of them, right? But there are two key researchers, I think both from the 70s, roughly, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. There's Lee Sanella and, well, I'll talk about Lee Sanella first. He wrote a book in the 70s where he was like, look, an awakening or a Kundalini awakening can look like psychosis, but it's actually more of an evolutionary and healing sort of activity. And that the clinical view of Western medicine really needs to have a framework for spiritual emergencies. And that's how he qualified it. And I think that kind of lends into the messy part, like what's actually taking place with somebody. And then you have Stanislav Groth. I don't know if I got that right, but he penned the term spiritual emergencies and how they're part of personal evolution, and really started just to say with like Kundalini, it's not about what's wrong with you, but what's trying to happen here, what's actually taking place. And I think it's that personal presence and what's going on.
And that's yoga to begin with. That is sort of an overarching in the yoga world, is there's nothing wrong with you, and you can show up violent, angry, pissed, stressed, grieving, all of that. It's not about getting rid of that. It's understanding where it came from and then working through that. We've demonized anger, like, oh, she's an angry person. Well, maybe there's something going on. She's not hurting. Like, that's what it is. It's the anger is not the problem. It's what you do with it.
And how you choose to express it. Well, that goes kind of into that yin and yang thing that we were just talking about before. Like, how are you balancing it?
Right. And a life without anger tells me that you're not addressing things coming up, because there's no way that you've never been angry.
Or you're just not living life.
Or you're right.
Fucking
right.
delusional.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the wrong medication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or too much of the right one.
Exactly.
There you go. On that Kundalini grind.
I thought I would share what the 7 steps of Kundalini are.
Ooh, yes.
What's my time, just out of interest?
You're only at 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, lovely. So I'll touch on them, but I think the main thing I wanted to ultimately get to is, oddly enough, I feel like Beth may have given this word at some level on purpose, because I would argue I've been through this in the previous 6 to 8 months.
Oh.
Which is kind of incredible because it started to put some words and thoughts around this experience that I've had. It kind of starts with your root chakra, which is I'm safe. It's located at the base of the spine. It's where it wakes up, and it's all about survival and grounding and trust. The second step is the sacral chakra, which is I feel, located just below the navel, which is sex, creativity, emotions, and pleasure. And I like to highlight that just because it's got a sexual, like some people say it's expressed sexually, but at the same time, it could have the full opposite for some folks, depending on how they manifest it. The solar plexus chakra, which is I do, located in the stomach, which is personal power, will, autonomy, and identity. It's, the symptom is feeling powerful as fuck. The heart chakra, which is I love. Love, compassion, forgiveness, and unity. It's at the center of the chest, and it's like the floodgates of love open is the symptom. The throat chakra, which is I speak, which is communication of truth and expression. The symptoms are you feel like you must speak the truth and share your truth. The 6th is the third eye chakra, middle of the forehead, which is intuition, insight, and psychic abilities, vivid dreams, visions, downloads of information. You just know. And then the 3rd, which is the crown chakra, which is top of head, connection to divine bliss, oneness. And the symptoms, states of unity, blissful samadhi. I don't know if I'm saying that. S-A-M-A-D-H-I.
It's the full nirvana. It's the full movement beyond all of that human realm.
So feeling like you are everything and everything is you.
Ooh.
It's being one with everything. And the crown, it's understood the crown chakra sits not on the physical, but like right above.
Mm-hmm.
Right above your head.
Yes.
This goes into kind of like the personal note, and I'm just going to share of myself a little bit personally. Maybe I'm in that throat chakra right now. But I think some people know, you guys both know, that I've gotten sober in the previous 10 months, and I'm about to be 10 months sober. And the other reason I'm sharing, by the way, is like one of the most powerful things I had in this process was hearing other people share about their kind of journey and decision to go this direction. And the one thing I'd say for anyone listening, if you're thinking about doing it, do it. It's one of the best decisions I've made for myself. But part of the other side of this as well, and I've also talked about this, is I've worked with a doctor and used a provider to kind of explore the microdosing and use of ketamine for anxiety and depression, and mostly for anxiety on my part. I kind of went through this interesting phase very early on when I fully cut off alcohol I described it to James as like, I feel everything. It's like pure chaos. Like, I feel everything. I sense everything. It's overwhelming. I don't know what to do with it. And I now actually kind of see this as I think this was kind of the uncoiling of the snake, if you will. And then through these steps, I had a very clear moment where I was in hyper bliss. I was I feel amazing. Everything is amazing. I remember specifically acknowledging it when I was on a trip back from Woodstock to Asbury Park and singing at the top of my lungs to some of my favorite songs and just being like, how is it I can feel this good? Why is it everything just feels so wonderful?
Mm-hmm.
I'm crying. Thank you, Ryan.
Aww.
And then and actually one of the other kind of acknowledgement points is when Jenna was in town last time and she and I were chatting and I was kind of talking about this journey and I was saying to her, I'm at this new point. I think the words I used is I'm starting to realize that I'm more intelligent than I thought I was. And I know that sounds like maybe a weird thing to say, but I was saying to her, like I just like the things that make me more of who I am, I feel more connected with, and I feel more deeply. And Michael, last week I was saying to Beth, like at the end of the thing, like one of my powers has always been kind of empathy, and it's so much stronger now, like my ability to feel how others feel or sense who people are. And it's like this weird, like I just didn't know it was there. But it's like at that next kind of like, if I had to put it, it's almost like that third eye chakra.
Yeah, it's awareness.
Yeah, like awareness and feeling things that I didn't know were present before. But I kind of genuinely believe like all of this is interrelated to kind of some of the practices. And the thing is with the use of the microdosing of ketamine, there's a very important part of meditation and like reflection and this thing. And I think the combination of eliminating the alcohol from my life and deburdening my body and my mind, and then at the same time having this kind of like enlightening practice, as well as candidly a drug that kind of contributes to the expansion, like the documented expansion of your neuroconnectors and neurotransmitters. I've kind of had this transcendent experience to lead to where I am now. Like, I feel like I've had the grand privilege of actually doing this. And I do feel like I'm at a different place, a different space than I was just a year ago. Yeah. And the thing is like, as soon as I read about the part of like this, like life chaos, and it just kind of like accidentally happens. And I'm like, holy shit, that's what has gone down. Because I remember the chaos at the beginning. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. If it's going to be like this all the time, like I'm not going to be able to get through it. But I'd be like, James, I just feel everything. I feel everything all the time. I can't turn it off. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that I don't have more work to do. I'm not suggesting that I'm by any means an enlightened one. I'm just saying that I think I've experienced some sort of journey that fits within the realm of this Kundalini experience.
It's honestly, if people, and I say this all the time, if you'll allow it to be, that's the yogic experience. These are the things that lead someone into the depths of the practice. There's so much like joking around in the yoga world that's like, oh, people think yoga people are all chill, but really we're all crazy. And it's funny, but the truth is, I think if you line up a bunch of people who are very serious, like myself, someone who has made a life out of this practice, we didn't come to it because we were like, that could be cool. We came to it because we were like, what do I do now? I don't know anything about anything. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I'm in the deep, dark depths of my soul, and I don't know where to turn. And I think for most of us, there was an ad or a Groupon for a yoga studio and a lovely girl sitting in lotus, with a sound bowl. And we were like, oh, that looks nice.
Said things to me like beat and that she's horny.
Yeah, and she was very attractive. Her eyeliner was perfect.
And her lashes, amazing.
I will never, ever forget my first real experience with a teacher that became a teacher of mine. And when we say teacher, in the yoga world, yes, it could be the person you go to every Saturday, but a lot of us have a teacher that we've been with for years and years and years. And my first ever teacher, the studio I used to practice at, Easton Yoga, I was 19. It had these huge high ceilings in one of the rooms. And typically during Shavasana or the final rest where you're just laying on your mat, often music is played, like soft music, but music. However, my first ever teacher used to turn off everything and she would sing mantra for like 10 minutes. And the way it would echo through the room, I will never, ever forget. And we're talking, that's nearly 20 years ago now, laying on my mat. I'm a kid, right? I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm crying and I'm like, what is happening here? What is happening here? And I knew, right? And I've been through a lot of iterations of my life since I was 19. However, I knew right then and there that I didn't know when it was going to be, but I was going to be part of this, whatever was going on in that room, I was going to be part of it. I didn't know how. And I was living at home, and my parents would go to bed, and I would go out into the living room and I would pull up yoga poses, just like in Google Images, like, the way they list them.
Yeah.
And I would just do every single one of them. And I used to do yoga. I was a figure skater, so we had a yoga teacher, and that was like my first intro to yoga. But when I started to dive deep into it, and I would read like, okay, you put your foot here, and this is what you should feel, and blah, blah, blah. And I would literally not flow, the way that we know vinyasa or hatha yoga to move from pose to pose. I would be like, okay, and Lord of the Fishes. Okay, and we're going to twist, and okay, Google. Okay, what's the next one? Oh, okay, a cobra pose. Okay, that feels really cool. Then I taught myself to handstand and headstand and do all that kind of stuff. And then I started actually taking yoga classes and being like, oh, so this is 1/8 of the yogic path. There's 8 limbs on the yogic path. One of them, the third, so not even the first, is asana or posture. And 15, whatever it is, years later, and I am a multiple studio director with a community that follows me that I could not be more in love with. We all start typically, and let me tell you something, you could tell the people who started because they wanted to do handstands on the beach. And I mean that with full offense.
I think we all know who they are.
Yes, we do.
Me. No. And I still can't do handstands.
Westernized yoga is something that you have to dig through sometimes, because like you see it on Instagram, you see it on TikTok. Like I said, you see Lulu commercials and you're like, that's cool. And yeah, what we can do with our body is really cool, but it goes so much deeper than that. And Ryan just described what I would tell people is the yogic experience. You don't have to be a different person. You don't have to put a bunch of crystals in your house. You don't even have to not drink, not smoke, not eat sugar, all that kind of stuff to have that experience of awareness and self-awareness, because once that self-awareness hits, you start noticing everything else.
Well, I was going to say, I actually think that drinking was suppressing the awareness.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right?
Well, that's what it's supposed to do.
It numbs. And I was going to say, and I feel lucky. And then I was able to lean into that awareness.
I mean, it sounds like the first time, and this is a really tiny example. Like, this is nothing compared to what you're talking about. But but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's half my show. I have really bad issue with like earwax buildup because my ear canals are wonky. I remember the first time that I went and had my ears cleaned, which, where they like blast water into your ear and then all the wax came out. I literally thought I became a Marvel superhero.
Yeah.
Because I went from like basically my whole life of like dulled hearing, and it only was getting worse and worse. And I was like, I literally can't hear out of one ear. That's why I finally got it done. I could hear ants thinking.
Now that's Nirvana.
It was the coolest experience. I was like, am I a superhero now? Like,
you are.
Because my first thought wasn't, is this how other people live? It was, I am now back. I was like, I am Superman. I could hear a paper crinkle from a mile away. It was the coolest sensation. And Ryan, when you were talking about all of a sudden you could hear, but it was also like, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't live like this. This is crazy. This is a lot. Like, I can't focus because I can hear everything. And it took a minute to get used to. But when you get rid of that filter, like, to be fair, this is a much smaller example, but I'm imagining like when you remove alcohol from your life, it's that times 1,000, because it's not just your ear, you're doing it to your brain and all of your senses. So I can only imagine going from having all of your senses just a little bit dulled to whoosh.
And I think there's so much to be said too for the experience that we have when we choose, say if what like an altered state, whatever. I think it's so unfortunately off the norm that if you do it, your average person, you're a trope, like you're the weirdo hippie. Like, I think like, I don't know if you've ever watched, I don't even know if it's on Netflix anymore, but there's a documentary called The Spirit Molecule, and it's about DMT. And basically the whole documentary is about that. It's these people that like live in the woods. They're very like natural, earthly people. And the whole thing is when you take DMT, your senses are heightened. So you become aware of the ants and you can hear their footsteps and the way that you hear the trees and all that. And people are like, oh, these fucking weirdos. is it weird to be aware of the beauty in our world? Like, if that's weird, then like literally lock me up, So when we look at it on that scale, maybe that's a little too much for people to handle right away. But I often have this conversation with students at the beginning of class when they say like, well, I don't believe in any of that like energy stuff. And I'm like, okay, tell me this. You come home from work, you're in a shit mood, you had a terrible day, but your partner is in a great mood and they set up dinner for you and they got you flowers and they said, you know what? I made reservations for cocktails. And all of a sudden your mood has shifted. That's an energy shift. You felt your partner's joy and happiness, and all of a sudden the negative that you felt melted away. Other way around, you're excited to go out with your friends, you're all happy, everyone is fighting when you get there, everyone's angry, so all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't want to go because now I'm in a bad mood. That's an energy shift. That's all that it is. And when people say like, oh, those people are weird, I say it all the time, I'm not afraid to be that person. And I feel like Ryan has even seen it. We're at the Stone Pony. We're watching a show. The sun is setting. The sky is pink. I smell the ocean. My friends are surrounding me. I'm crying.
Yeah.
Because I feel it.
Yeah.
It feels so good to be able to go, this is it, dude. It's not work. This is it.
I was going to say, I think it's important to point out that thing is different for everyone. And I think that's the other thing that people get caught up in this thing. Like, Kundalini isn't one thing. That's, I think, where I've arrived. It's a lot of different things. And that kind of like, ascending is different experiences. But I think the thing it does lean into, and I think the key message here is to stop and be aware of it, or stop and be aware of your presence and your presence relative to your surroundings. And I think that's probably what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
100%. And everyone's experience is different. The thing that makes everyone stop in their tracks and take that deep breath and go, oh, wow, is different.
Yeah.
It's like when people say to me, like, you'll never know love until you look into the eyes of your baby. And I'm like, well, I don't want a baby, so that's not the feeling that I'm searching for. But have you ever stood on the boardwalk at the sunset and taken a big breath in with your partner that you love more than anything, holding their arms around your shoulders? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, it's funny is I'm a little bit hungry, and I thought, and staring at a big chocolate cake.
Oh,
yeah.
That too. Anything that makes you take that second and go like, this is it, man.
Smell the frosting.
Yeah.
I'm a cream cheese frosting girl myself.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's horny.
That's horny.
horny.
Oh, man. All right. Speaking, I almost was like, and this was Whyte Noise, but I forgot that we have to.
Yeah, I was about to.
We have to finish. I was like, this is the perfect ending.
We've all ascended.
We'll all just take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you have to pick a winner. I mean, good luck. This all became a big free flow conversation.
This one's really hard because, I mean,
I don't envy you on this one.
Yeah,
it's a toughie.
And I don't know. I might have to say Ryan because of the personal, and also because as someone who is one of Ryan's best friends, I've always loved him. I'm talking like he's not here. This guy.
Who?
There's always been, I tell people this all the time, Rick and James, so my husband and Ryan's husband, best friends their whole life, 30 something years. And of course, I've always loved James. James has been someone that I could go to for anything. I've known him since I was a teenager. But then he met Ryan and I was like, oh yeah, this one belongs to me.
Oh,
this is mine. So him and I have this, we always like the boys
shared love.
And we're like, oh, well, we'll just go on vacation without you, the two of us. Like, or we'll go to
We don't need you.
We don't need you guys. So me and Ryan have always had this connection and I've always loved everything about him. But watching you in the past year, that's why I cried. Because watching you in the past year, it's almost like, I'm like, oh my God, he has found himself and he sees himself the way I see him.
Oh God, now you're gonna make me cry.
So, you're now seeing yourself the way that I hear you when you talk and the way that I see you when you're out in the world. So that is what it's about. And I think that's amazing.
Man, thank you.
You're very welcome. I love you.
Oof, I could go cry now. Thank you.
Oh.
Michael's like, and that's Whyte Noise.
Could you imagine?
And on that note.
Wow. That would be. Oh. So moral of this episode is, Ryan, we love you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. I love both of you so much.
Oh,
I mean that. I'm so thankful for both of you.
oh, you are horny.
Oh, I am actually.
No.
Ooh.
So what is our word for next week?
So your word is, I texted Ryan before and I was like, can I say like a brand or is that like infringement? And he was like, no, it's public domain. So Vans, the shoe.
Vans, great.
Vans.
I wonder if there are any on my roof right now.
Yep. Just
There
go
might
up there
be.
and check. Do some market research.
Yeah.
I just think it's been interesting because they have a ton of history and I have, no joke, probably 12 to 14 pairs of Vans.
All right, great. So, well, this is beautiful. Jordan, thank you so much. You're such a rock
Thank
star.
you guys. So fun, always.
Another good one.
I mean, I think we're all gonna go have a nice little like whoof moment after this.
Ooh.
And then go learn about Vans. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Get on it.